This video is an explanation of the Belgian ring sport. It's the third European biting dog sport I will be featuring in my newsletters with my friend Michael Ellis. The video was filmed last month at Michael's School for Dog Trainers in California while I was out there for 2 weeks videotaping new protection dog videos with Michael and his students. We have already covered the KNPV, Schutzen, and IPO. In coming weeks, we will cover the French ring sport and the Mondio ring sport. The goal of these lectures is to not only explain the concepts of these dog sports, but how the rules of the dog sports promote very specific kinds of dogs. By that I mean people who breed for these sports try and produce dogs that have the characteristics to do well in the specific sport in question. Now, let's listen to Michael talk about the Belgian ring sport.
Also done in a bite suit. It has a variety of both obedience and agility exercises as well as protection exercises. Unlike both Schutzen and KNPV, all the ring sports, you do all the exercises combined in one unit. So in KNPV, on certification day, they have little stations. So your dog goes from this station to do an obedience exercise to this station to do an obedience exercise to this station to do one, and then from this station to do a protection exercise, from this station to do a protection exercise. So it's kind of broken up with little breaks in between each of the exercises. And they frequently do it kind of outdoors, and then they wind up doing the protection portion in the stadium or something like that, or on a field. But they move from place to place, and there's a little downtime between. So like the dogs will all go out and do this thing, and then they'll all go out and do this. They'll all go out and do this. So it's kind of broken up. Schutzen is the same. Each of the phases is broken up and done separately. So the dogs go track, and then they all go back, and then they go in the stadium, they all do obedience, and they come off, and then they all go do protection. Right? So they're all broken into pieces with breaks in between. The ring sports are all done straight through. So you do all your obedience, all your agility, all your protection in one go. So it's all done on one field. You step into the field, you do the whole thing, run together, right? So right there's a selection for a certain kind of dog, a dog with a lot of endurance, for one. It's a different kind of dog, and there's one of the reasons that you see a certain style of dog do well in the ring sports that you don't see in some of the others. Like a lot of the KNPV, the Dutch dogs, can be very big, heavy dogs. They want them to be police dogs. They are only going to need them to expend energy in bursts, and so it's not uncommon to see a 90-pound Malinois coming out of Holland. This great big dogs. But those dogs tend not have the endurance to do ring sport, where the dog's going to be on the field for 40 or 45 minutes doing all their exercises back to back. Belgian ring sport is unique in that it has, of all the ring sports, it's the only one that evaluates how the dog grips, what they do with their mouth, right? Because most of the ring sports are the sports where the guys are wearing suits, the guys are very active. They're trying to make the dog miss. They're moving. They're fighting the dog a lot while they're biting, which makes, from a judging perspective, very difficult to judge how the dog's using its mouth. When the decoy's trying not to let him bite him, if the dog gets him at all, it's a good thing. In Belgian ring, the decoys don't move very much. During the protection exercises, they simply stand there and make a little attraction. They send the dog comes and bites. The decoy is pretty static, not moving very much while the dog's biting, and there's a judge there evaluating how the dog's biting. And the points for biting are all about pushing in constantly. They want the dog to use its whole mouth and push forward. They don't like dogs that are pulling back, and they don't like dogs that don't bite with their whole mouth. Right? So this is where some of that bite drive really comes from, I think. Right? The Belgian system is the guys standing very still, and they want the dogs to kind of keep pushing in and biting on their own. And you see frequently puppies coming from those programs that somebody just stands there and goes clap, 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 and the dog comes right over and grabs on and just starts digging in. Like, okay, I'm just doing it. Right. So it's an interesting and kind of unique thing. They use a lot of environmental stressors. So there's not much happening from the decoy, but there's a lot happening on the field. They set up a gauntlet, and they'll have a swimming pool there the dog has to go through. And as the dog's going through, they have two guys on the sides with big wading pools full of plastic bottles they throw at the dog. And then the dog gets there, and an air horn goes off, and they drop things on him, and they do all kinds of stuff, right? So the dog has to go through all this madness to get to the decoy. And then once they get there, the decoy doesn't do much, but they evaluate how the dog bit. So, and then lots of the time, the dogs get outed and recalled, and some of the times they out and guard the helper, right? The other thing about the ring sports is that the bites themselves, the duration of the bites, are long if you're used to Schutzhund. So in Schutzhund, there's 5 bites in a Schutzhund 3 routine, and it's basically really fast. The guy escapes, the dog bites him, run, stop, out your dog. He reattacks the dog, drives him a short distance, stops, out your dog, right? So the bites are 3, 4, 5 seconds maybe, and they're kind of quick, and then they're over. In ring sport, the dogs bite a long time. So in Belgian ring, it's 10 seconds. So the dogs are in there, or 8 seconds. But in there, on each of the bites, they're in there for a period of time. The judge is timing they're on there. So the dogs, not only is the program kind of long, but the dogs are on the bite for a long time. Again, another selection towards an endurance component. And in Belgian ring, there's also, like all the ring sports, they have very big jumps. So the agility portion is really strenuous. Very high jumps. They have 3 jumps, a hurdle, a straight wall, and a long jump, and they're all quite large. So for the dogs, there's an athletic selection process that's really quite difficult as well. Again, selects for not a great, huge, giant dog. You know, you want a dog that's sort of medium or slightly above medium and athletic. In Belgian ring, one of the interesting things is not only do they evaluate the dog's grip, biting style, but there's an exercise called the guard of object, which is in all of the ring sport things, where the handler comes out and leaves an object and tells the dog to guard it, and they go out of sight, and a decoy comes in and attempts to steal the object. So the dog has to work independently of the handler guarding this thing with no commands. And in Belgian ring, it's unique because they have 2 object guard exercises. One where a guy wearing a bite suit comes and tries to take it, and a second one where the dog's wearing a muzzle, and people come out without equipment on and try to steal the object. And the dog is graded on how it comes off the object and hits the guy with the muzzle, right? So in Belgian ring, we have kind of a unique situation in that they select for dogs with a lot of athletic ability because the jumps are hard. They care how the dogs bite, so there's a selection for dogs that have a full bite naturally and that bite with a lot of their own energy, that don't require a lot of stimulation to bite. And because of the muzzle, it's very hard to get a dog to do good muzzle work unless they are somewhat aggressive. Right? It's very difficult, and we'll talk about this when we start talking about protection techniques, but the use of a muzzle is one way you can test a dog's desire or work on a dog's desire to engage somebody that's not wearing equipment. So I can come out in my street clothes, and the dog with a muzzle that's trying to hit me and still trying to get me, that dog's usually coming from a state of aggression. It's very hard to shape that behavior. And there are guys that try. There are techniques where people are trying to shape dogs that don't really want to be aggressive to put on a muzzle and just run into somebody with the muzzle and then run back to the object. But you can usually tell the difference in the intensity when you watch them, and they're graded on the intensity as they do this, right? So in my mind, when you talked about what's my favorite, one of the things that's my favorite about Belgian ring is that it tests a lot of the aspects of kind of a total dog. And so those dogs tend to be good in a lot of different applications when they come out of there. They make good police dogs. They have good grips, so they could be good Schutzhund dogs if you wanted them to be. They're very athletic. They jump well. The little bit of aggression means that any kind of real practical type protection work they tend to do well at. They've been tested to some degree for environmental soundness. They have good endurance. There's a lot of good stuff coming from that. All the ring sports select for a dog that has good endurance and a lot of athletic ability. But the Belgian ring is the only one that looks at the dog's gripping style and the dog's aggression as well.
Our next video will be on the French ring, and then that will be followed by the Mondio ring. If you'd like to watch some of the free streaming videos that I have on my website, you can go to this web address now. I have a number of free streaming training videos and then a number of product videos also.